Hello viewers, welcome to my Doctor Who themed YouTube channel, Who Ventures. And in this video, I am reviewing Doctor Who Flux Series 13, Episode 2, War of the Sontarans. This was also written by Chris Chibnall. So far, this series, both episodes haven't really, for me, got above a 7 out of 10. What I think Chris Chibnall is hoping is that he'll chuck enough balls at you, hit you in the face a few times, so you'll have to, when this whole series is concluded and we learn what all the answers are, we have to go back and watch it again to pick up on all the clues. I think he's hoping he'll get double the viewing figures. So that's why he's just quick cutting between scenes, chucking absolutely loads into each episode, so you get lost, you can't follow it all, so you have to come back and actually watch it again with the extra knowledge that you've gained from watching the whole series. So ergo double the viewing figures. Sneaky that. So we have the previously on section, and then we have the cloister bell ringing, and I think this is probably my favourite bit in the episode. The cloister bell is ringing and we see the Doctor in black and white, and she's in a forest, and there's the really creepy house. I think it might be the same house that Diane got sort of kidnapped by. So, and the house, it looks really cool because it's in black and white, and the house looks like it's hovering above water, but I think it's just the play of the reflection. And I thought that section with the Doctor in black and white, forest, creepy house, I'll take a whole episode just like that. Actually, that would be awesome. What I've realised in between the first two episodes is that I just feel like we're missing a whole series, and I know Big Finish can probably pick it up, but it's not quite the same as it being a television series. That it just feels disjointed, like we're missing a whole block of stuff that we could have watched, could have seen Yaz develop, and like I wanted a series before this with just the Doctor and Yaz on their adventures, learning about each other. It just feels, without that, it just feels like it's really missing. It just obviously just a big gap. So I was a bit disappointed thinking about it over the week. That I just missed the gap, what we could have seen. So, and then we move from the actual awesome bit to the Doctor wakes up and she's on the battlefield, and Yaz wakes up on the battlefield and Dan's there. And I think what I've noticed in this episode and the previous one is Chris Chibnall, he started just blatantly copying a lot of Russell T Davies's stuff. I don't know whether he thinks, oh, because it's all about time, so it's like repeating, it's like time's muddled, but he's just blatantly copying a lot of gimmicks. Well, Chibnall is making them gimmicks, because originally when we saw them, it looked pretty cool, but now he's just copying so much stuff, and he's not even changing it that much. And it's so obvious if you've seen all of New Who that it's just copying. That is just not clever, and it's just kind of annoying, and the way he's doing it is not helping his story at all. So the way the Doctor, Yaz and Dan wake up is a bit the same as when at the end of series 1, when the Doctor Jack and Rose like are separated out of the TARDIS, and then they come to, and they're like, "Where am I? Where am I?" And they've all been separated. That's what that bit reminded me of. And my other big thing I don't like at all about Chibnall's era is the lack of human physical contact. Because before, in the previous series, there's been lots of hugging, and Ten and Rose especially, that when they were separated and they thought they were going to die, and it turns out they're all right, and then they're reunited, they run, they hug, they're happy to see each other. But this, like, Yaz and Dan and the Doctor wake up, they think that it was going to be the end of the universe, they're going to die, so, and Yaz just strolls up. There's like no hug or anything, they're just like really casual about it. And it just looks weird. It feels odd. It feels missing, like it's empty. I don't know what Chris Chibnall's problem is with the Doctor not having just physical contact with the companions and like hugging. Like it stands out as odd, the way that they deliberately really casual about things and not hugging. It's just odd, and it just reflects on Chris Chibnall that he's got a problem with just human relationships, which is weird because he's done like Broadchurch and stuff, which was all about human relationships. But it comes to Doctor Who and nobody's hugging. Everybody has to, obviously because of COVID, but even before COVID, for series 11, everybody just stood there like cardboard. It's odd because obviously the Mandip and Jodie are really affectionate and physically affectionate in real life, and they cuddle and hold hands and stuff so much, so they're obviously comfortable with it. So why isn't that chemistry in the show? Are they deliberately told to just stand there like cardboard, or are they a bit shy to do it, so they need a nudge from the director, who has decidedly not given them the nudge to perhaps hug or something? It's just odd, and it's just spoilt Chibnall's era for me, that, because it's just doesn't seem right. Anyway, rant over, let's carry on. So we see a dead soldier on the battlefield in red. So well, I have to admit, I confess to being ignorant of the Crimean War and Mary Seacole. I knew Mary Seacole's name, but I don't really know what she did. But I thought all the Ally soldiers in the red uniforms in the Crimean War, because they're all from different countries, or are they have their own uniforms? So I don't know if the soldier automatically meant he was a British soldier or what. But anyway, he's dead on the battlefield. Then Mary Seacole turns up, and the Doctor introduces herself and Yaz and Dan, and then Mary says, "Doctor is a man's term." And at first I was like, would Mary Seacole say that? And then I learnt about, at first I thought, I was a bit pissed at Chibnall and thought, would she really say that? But then I had been ignorant, so I looked it up properly and read up on it after the episode. And I learnt about how in Mary's culture of like, because there's like an amalgam of spiritual healing, medical healing, all different types of healing, and it stemmed down from her family, and the women called themselves doctresses. So Mary would call herself a doctress. So yeah, see, that's where that was in. So, like a good Heathen, I admitted to my ignorance and actively went to learn about something, which you should do instead of ranting off, which makes you look silly. So then we find out that the Allies are not fighting the Russians as the Doctor thinks, because this is when they were fighting the Russians. They're actually fighting the Sontarans. And then we hear Sontar ha, and the leader. Now, a thing with probably my note taking and the speed of the episodes, I've missed a lot of character names, so I don't have all the characters' names because it takes a lot to keep up with the episode when you can't pause it, and I prefer to do my notes during the first live broadcast because that's my first emotions. So I will be missing a lot of names. Ravinder, when he introduced himself, I just gave up Vinder. And I didn't try putting all the names on because they just spouted a load of names. There's a lot of names in this series. So I thought it was cute that it's just the leader and just one horse, like no other horses about. And then we've got the opening titles. So we see Vinder and he's waking up. And he's waking up in this like corridor, and then there's this diamond, and it's a floating light in a diamond shape. And I thought these diamond lights was lovely. I thought it was adorable. If we could, I suppose you could have one because they just merchandise that magnetic plate thing where you can hover stuff. So you could have one, but it wouldn't be one that would totally float through the air like that. But they're so sweet. I'd like those as merchandise, life size. Probably did have to be on a magnetic base thing. But I thought it was really cute. I really liked them. And so this diamond floating light is in. Can you repair? And so it goes into this temple, and around the middle of this pointy thing, there's like they're like statues, but they're people, and they have to stand there, and they're called the Mari, and they're sort of like people, but they have to stand really still. I wasn't quite sure. So then we're back with the Sontarans and Mary Seacole, and she takes the Doctor into and yeah, she's still with Dan and Yaz at this point. She takes all three over to her British hotel, which is what the real Mary Seacole, because they wouldn't let her, because she was a black and a woman, and because of toxic masculinity and racism, they wouldn't let it set up officially as a hospital. So she made this British hotel where she could treat the soldiers. And I thought that in the show, the British hotel, the exterior looked remarkably like the Master's little shed house TARDIS. Thought it looked rather familiar. I was suspicious about that. And then Dan, he starts going blue and sort of fading away. And then Yazzy's fading away too. And they're falling through space and time. So the Doctor tries to get back in the TARDIS to go get him. But the TARDIS has lost their outer door. So the Doctor can't actually get into the TARDIS. And she asks the TARDIS, let me in, but the TARDIS can't let her in. So then we see that Dan's landed in Liverpool and he's back on his own street. His house, obviously, still got his mini house. And then he sees Jim, his next door neighbour, and his neighbours. And I thought this was acted weird because there's his next door neighbour Jim, and I've got to assume that Jim hates Dan, because like I'm assuming that Jim just couldn't be fucked with Dan at all, because he doesn't care. Because Jim and this other neighbour knew the Sontarans have taken over, and Sontarans have got a curfew for the humans. But the neighbour's like he's your neighbour and he's a fellow human, and you know Sontarans will get the humans if they don't obey the curfew, and you're just stood there at Wendigo, sat. So, fucking get in, come in my house, the Sontarans will shoot you. Bloody hell, what are you doing on the street? That's what you do, you wouldn't do that. I just thought that was so shite. What are you doing? Invite him in, he's your bloody neighbour. Fuck's sake. So I assume none of Dan's neighbours like him from that. So the Sontarans are enforcing a curfew. Luckily, he finds his mum and dad, and this is pretty much exactly like Wilf and Sylvia when they were fighting the Daleks. Dan's mum and dad are fighting against the Sontarans with their saucepans and woks, because they can whack the Sontarans on the back of the head on the little probic vent, and I love that bit. Oh, it's a probic vent. Yeah, don't get medical. Dan's mum and dad are brilliant, really funny. I really enjoyed that. But you think the Sontarans would have come up with a solution for that? People can get the whackers on back at probic vent completely take us out. Shall we actually do something about that on his costumes, on his army? No, let's just leave it. It's like, surely if you've got such an obvious weakness, you'd want to cover it up. This Sontarans is silly. And then we're back with Yaz, and she's on her own in the corridors of this temple. And then the Victorian guy's there. Now, I wasn't sure if he was actually a real person in our real life, because I don't know because I was confused last week, because I thought, was he like a made up person, or was he a person that actually built stuff under Liverpool? And I've forgotten his name too. And he's in the corridor and all, and Yaz says, what year do you think it is? And he says, it's 1820. And he said, I have a feeling we don't agree on the date, do we? And he says, all is porous, all is broken. And then, I don't know what happened. I think he just disappeared then. So, because we never saw him again. He just... So the triangle light comes floating down the corridor, and he asks Yaz for help this time. And she's a bit unsure. Then she looks at her hand, and it's really sweet. She's got written on her hand, she's got WWTDD, what would the doctor do? And she's got it written on her hand. I thought she'd have it tattooed, really. But I thought, oh, that is actually really sweet. And then back with the doctor. There's so much cut in between scenes, it's kind of like annoying. But then the doctor's in the British hotel, and the general of the Light Brigade is planning the battle. Him and Mary think that the Sontarans have always been there, and Russia, and I think it might have been Crimea, Russia and Crimea, because I've put Russia and China, so that was a bit ignorant of me. But anyway, where those countries should be on, it's like a risk map, it reminds me of Risk. They're now Sontar, and that's where the Sontars have started setting up, because they want to take over the earth. So Mary and the general, they're like, Russia, the word that way, it does sound familiar. So they do still have a memory of it should be Russia. And then the doctor's like, oh, and then we could do this, blah, 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 blah. And the general's like, are you expecting a response to your musings? And I thought that was quite funny. And then he said, "We're fighting for Queen and country." And the doctor said, "Is she here with you? Is she here, the Queen?" And I was like, "No." So Mary takes the doctor on the rounds to look after the patients. And then she found out she's treating a Sontaran, and it's Dan Starkey. Now, I wasn't sure if this was meant to be Strax himself. I don't think it was. It's just like, I was confused. And Mary's telling the doctor that Sontaran, he rests for a few minutes, and then he's just yelling and being a twat and pissed off, and then rests again for a bit more. Then I said he's pissed off, and then he says cyan KZ something. I couldn't keep up with that. So the doctor, she talks about being the doctor, but he doesn't recognise Jodie as the doctor. So, and the general's just going to shoot him. The doctor said, "Don't shoot him." And then the doctor explains to him about the Sontarans, and the doctor's like on the backfield again with Mary and said, "I'm Mary Seacole's assistant." Bit of a cheesy line, really. And then so they find this camouflage shield, which is like hologram type thing, and they step through, and then they find the Sontaran spaceships and loads of Sontaran in an encampment, and Mary's up on this hill, and she has to monitor all the Sontarans and write in this notebook what they're doing, and Mary has to avoid being noticed by the Sontarans. So Commander Stark is being given information by the Sontaran patient, and then the Sontaran patient, according to their system of honour, is executed. And I thought the bit was when it said "Sontar ho," Sontar ho. So then we're back with Dan again, and Dan and his parents are in their car. It totally reminded me of Wilf and Sylvia. So, and then they're talking about there was a 3-minute eclipse, and then these Sontarans arrived, and Dan realizes, well, that was the Corvinista spaceships putting the shield on. So clearly they didn't need the shield anymore, which I'm confused about. So Dan's parents have been knocking out these Sontarans with the pans, and the Sontarans arrived in Liverpool first and took over the Albert Docks. I used to love going to the Albert Docks. I went once on a school trip. There was a hologram museum, and it was amazing. I love holograms. So Dan's decided he's going to infiltrate the Sontaran camp, and his dad gives him a walk to hit the Sontarans with. And then we're back at this temple, and Yaz introduces herself to Vinda, and they discuss how they don't know where they are. And Yaz was hoping that the repairs she was asked to do was just going to be like easy, like just fixing a washing machine or something. But they have to like fix time in the temple. So it's called the Temple of a Trappist, and there's these guardian priests, and they're on this temple is on the planet called Time, and these guardians are assigned to protect time, but they think time is evil. And the Sontarans, so we're back on with Dan, and the Sontarans have found other humans trying to infiltrate the Sontaran camp, and Dan's watching this, and Commander Whittaker, he executes these humans, and then he talks about a temporal offensive. Then we're back on the battlefield, and the doctor sonics out a klaxon sound, which the Sontaran knows as the doctor wants to parley. So the doctor and the Sontaran go to talk, and he's quite surprised that she's the doctor, but then they get to talking, and the Sontarans before saw the Flux coming, so they took advantage of it. And then there's a Commander Lynx reference. Oh, and then the doctor asks, why Sebastopol? And there's sometimes says, well, there's so much opportunity, and I wanted to ride a horse. I thought, oh, bless. Oh, that's so cute. So, but then the general turns up being all toxic masculinity again, being an absolute dickhead, and points a gun at the doctor and says, no, Doctress, I'll fight Sontarans. So we see the big overhead shot of the armies running towards each other, and at this point, because of what the general did, I was really cheering on the Sontarans. It's like, go on, Sontarans. And then the doctor, she does a little thing of Venusian Aikido on the soldier escorting her away from the battlefield, and he gets knocked out. And then we're back with Dan, and he's infiltrating the Sontaran ship, and he's climbing up the scaffolding to get on the ship. And then we're back at the temple, and the Swarm and his sister, I've forgotten her name, and then you've got this passenger dude who's like all covered in black with gold bits on his outfit. And they arrive at the temple, but then the light's coming up. It's like, oh, can you repair? Can you do us a repair, please? And then the woman Swarm, she just destroys, dissolves, and turns the light into dust. And they say a Trappist is where it all began. And then we're back on the battlefield, and the battle's still raging. And the general's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this. He's like very unsure. And then we find out Mary's done a good job of everything down what the Sontarans are doing. So the doctor and Mary go half a league onward. Then we see the general on the battlefield, and he's faking being dead, so the Sontarans won't get him. So, and then we're inside the Sontaran ship, and the doctor gets out a catapult. I liked the doctor getting out a catapult. She shoots a catapult at the Sontaran, so it hits its pubic vent. And then on the other side of the screens, Dan's been logging everything on his phone, and he's pressing some buttons inside the ship that he's got on. And then the doctor can see Dan through the screen, and they can talk, and they talk both at the same time, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually Dan says, well, we was talking about sushi or something, temporary command. And the doctor says, temporal command. And the doctor accesses Dan's phone and says, what, even my photos? Oh, that's funny. And so the Sontarans are building time ships to destroy Earth history. And then Dan and Mary say, hello dear, and that was funny. And then Dan's got to work, and the Sontarans then know that someone's using the frequency, and the Sontarans found him. So Dan makes it turn round, and then he whacks it on its pubic vent. Then we're back in the temple, and the Swarm enters the temple with Yaz and Vinda, and the Swarm knows about Yaz's message to herself on her hand. And then he grabs Yaz around the neck, throttling her, and Vinda tries to shoot the Swarm, but every time he tries, they teleport out of his range. And then there's this big passenger guy, and it's like, he's gonna get him too. Then the light, it tries to argue against the Swarm, but the Swarm's sister destroys that one too. And then the swarm, he completely trashes the Guardians and destroys one. And then we're back with Dan and the Sontarans. They hold up the guns to execute Dan. And that's when Coronista shows up. That was fun. Shows up to rescue Dan. And yay! He's like, come on, you idiot, what are you doing? That was funny. And then we're back on the battlefield, and Mary's tending to all the injured humans. And then the general comes in asking for help, and the doctor's like, I'm going to need a pointy stick. And then she's giving a lecture about the Sontarans, and I thought this bit was a bit cringy, to be honest. I thought, like, the general and Mary Seacole on this bit, they just came across like 5-year-olds, especially when the lot says, gold star for Mary. I thought, that just does not work for me. It's just, it's cringe. But anyway, the doctor's plan is to empty the Sontarans, because the Sontarans, they can't actually survive on Earth without some tech that converts the air for them. So the doctor's plan is to empty all their tech that's supplying this air for the Sontarans out of the ship. And then there's and then we're back with Dan and Cognista, and there's an alarm on the Sontaran ships, and the Sontaran's pissed off, and Dan hits the Sontaran with a whack, and Carvinista's he's still slacking off Dan. Then Carvinista says steals a Sontaran ship, and they're going to and then Skark says it's going to do a strategic withdrawal. Was that? Oh, I'm confused myself. Because like they said, instead of like the Sontarans, like instead of like saying we'll back off or we'll surrender, actually we're not surrendering. It's just a strategic withdrawal. They just won't admit when they've lost something. So it's like hit the road, Skark. I can't remember now. I thought it was on the battlefield I lived on. But anyway, so Carvinista's idea, I'm gonna ram him. He's gonna ram all the ships together, creating a temporal bang. I didn't see why. I don't necessarily know why it's a temporal bang per se. Because they're just ships at the shipyards that I was gonna make a temporal bang. Okay. And then Carvinista and Dan go down the waste tube out of the ship. Now this is just like when the Doctor and Amy go down the sort of ride along on a wave of vomit from the star whale in The Beast Below. But that's just copying that bit now. Stop copying. Come up with something different. Like. And then we're back. Oh, maybe the strategic withdrawal was on the battleship. Because then, and then we have another bit that Chibnall's has copied. The general, he lights a fuse that explodes all the Sontaran ships, and we see, and the Doctor's all, what do you do that for? No, and it's like, come, but. And the Doctor's like really pissed that he blew up the Sontarans, despite the fact that the Doctor was planning to like kill the Sontarans herself anyway. That didn't. It was like didn't make sense. So then the Doctor's leaving the battlefield in the TARDIS, because the TARDIS has managed to make a door again. Then when she goes in the TARDIS, it's all messed up again. There's bits that aren't meant to be there. And then so then Dan calls Carvinista Scooby-Doo. Dan's really happy that the doctor still wants him to come with. It's like the doctor's like, do you want to come with me? It's like, yeah. And then Carvinista's like, because he wants to keep protecting Dan, it's his job. And so Dan goes off with the doctor in the TARDIS. Carvinista's like, it's like a sigh of that. He's my human. I do love him really, but he's a pain in the ass. But I thought it's that kind of sigh, a bit like when Geralt is like, yes, yeah. It's like, oh, there's such a pain in the ass, but I do love him. I thought that was kind of cute. So anyway, yeah, the console's different again. The TARDIS is being hijacked into the temple of a Trappist, and then the woman swarm says, "Come this way," and then the remnants of the Mari and the temple of a Trappist on the planet Time. And then we see the swarm has put Yaz and Vinda, and they got the makeup on and have to be the Mori in the temple, being the guardians or some such. I don't really understand because the woman swarm destroyed the lamps and they've been destroying a load of stuff, but now they want Vinda and Yaz to be the guardians, despite the fact that they the swarms come in seemingly wanting to destroy the guardians. I didn't really understand what's going on. Perhaps maybe there's just to lure the doctor here or something, but and then the swarm threatens to, with a click of his fingers, that sounds familiar, a snap, really. We'll put the full force of time straight through Yaz and Vinda, and then end credits. That's a cliffhanger, which is immediately completely made pointless by the next time trailer, where we see that Vinda and Yaz are just fine. So what's the point of having the cliffhangers if you're going to have the next time trailers on and we just see that, oh wait, he didn't snap his fingers, they look fine to me. It'd make more sense without a next time trailer, because then it would be a cliffhanger, but you immediately spoiling the next episode straight after the cliffhanger, which does not make any sense marketing wise. So I would give this 7 out of 10 because there was a lot going on. My favourite part was that you wanted to ride an horse, but my very favourite part was the first bit that was in black and white, with the doctor in black and white seeing the creepy house. I prefer just like a whole episode or a couple of two-parter of black and white creepy house, sort of lighthouse style, but obviously a bit cleaner for a family audience. So I just think there's so much going on, but I do think the swarm is a genuinely scary monster and is generally threatening and does make me feel anxious for the characters. So that is a good point. But it kind of sort of made the Sontarans just a bit like teddy bears, really. So it lessened the threat of the Sontarans, because the swarm, the way it's acted is just so threatening that any other creatures that just get not be as scary. So that's a good bit, but I'm still sticking with going about 7 out of 10 so far. It's just, it's some stuff. So I'm really excited to discuss it with everybody on Twitter to see what everybody thought. So and I never can so no. I never get the right direction. Here are my notes from the episode. So I hope you have enjoyed this review and thank you for watching. Yay!